it's kind of funny for me every time I step onto the stage somewhere in the world. I have to admit this too, because every time it happens, I get this funny feeling. I get this realization that, you know what, I'm just here to talk about bicycles. And there's a whole bunch of people sitting there looking at me, and they're waiting for me to talk about bicycles. And in here in Melbourne, we just flew 27 hours from the glory of the Nordic summer and 35 degrees on the beach to winter in Melbourne to talk about bicycles. And this is really quite strange for a Copenhagener. None of my friends, family, or colleagues can fathom that there are thousands of people a day clicking onto bicycle blogs. They can't understand that there's a market for me to talk about bicycles around the world. And one of my friends, he said it to me best. He says, "Oh, right, okay. If you're going to go tell people about our bicycle culture, then please make sure you tell them about our vacuum cleaner culture as well, because it's the same thing." And he's right in many ways. Our relationship to the vacuum cleaner is much the same as it is to our bicycle. We all have one. We've all learned how to use it. Not often enough at my house, apparently. And we all use it. But really, we don't dress up to vacuum. We don't buy specialty clothes to vacuum. We don't have a stable of vacuum cleaners that we keep oiled and polished. We don't give our vacuum cleaners names. We don't wave at other vacuum cleaner enthusiasts on the street. So it really is, the vacuum cleaner and the bicycle are merely very effective tools for making our everyday lives easier. And that is the way we regard our bicycles and our bicycle culture. I cannot escape the fact now that I am here to talk about bicycles. So I'm going to start by showing some pictures of rush hour, Copenhagen style. This is actually what is considered to be the busiest bicycle street in the Western world. There's over 35,000 bicycles up and down this street every day. This is rush hour, 8:30 in the morning in August last year. This is another street, Hans Christian Andersen Boulevard, not far from there, and 25,000 bicycles every day up and down the street. And you can see this pack of people on bicycles. The light turns green, they shoot off. 2 minutes later, there's just another group, just the same size, rolling up. And it's just wave after wave all through the day, although it is most dramatic in the morning rush hour. This is one of the bridges over the harbor in November. And here you can see one of our classic Copenhagen cargo bikes. These are a necessity in Copenhagen, especially if you have kids. In Greater Copenhagen, there's about 30,000 of these cargo bikes, many different brands. And if you own kids, you have to have one. 25% of all families with 2 kids or more own one. And these are really the Copenhagen version of the SUV. And just if you can see there's a liter of milk in front of the kids on that cargo bike, so they're being dropped off somewhere and they need milk apparently. And because we've been so cold, Felix and I, all week, I thought I'd show you how we get our Christmas tree in Copenhagen. That's us with the 2 kids. The little pink blob is my daughter at the back on the top left. And this is us on the beach last week. We both have a cargo bike, me and my wife, and the kids are in my bike, and she has all the gear. Of course, when you go to the beach with kids, it's a major moving expedition. But it's a 10-kilometer ride down to this particular beach, which is the best one. This is how we get there, and this is universal. When you go to the beach in the summer, parking is a bitch, and this is the problem we see at the bottom left. They're rolling along looking for a space on this beach. So this is going to sound funny when I say that, you know what, I'm sorry, we don't have any cyclists in Copenhagen. Very, very few, at least. And if that's the case, who are all these crazy people I've just shown you pictures of? What possesses them in one of the richest countries in the world to ride a bicycle? How lame is that? Businessmen, these are lawyers on their way to the city courts. Families, three generations all in once, rolling past the City Hall Square. The elderly enjoying a fantastic level of independent mobility into a very high age. Couples, friends, lovers on the way to the cinema, a cafe, a restaurant, a party on a Friday, Saturday night. A few 100,000 people sharing a snowstorm in the middle of January. I think it was about -10 there, -20 with the wind chill, and the bicycles keep on rolling. Now, while they may not be cyclists, one thing's for sure, there's about 500,000 of these strange creatures in Greater Copenhagen, the metropolitan area, every single day. Even I get a kick out of the fact if I'm out riding my bike at 8:30 in the morning, thinking that there are 500,000 people, within, a certain radius of me riding bicycles. It really gets you a kick. 37% of commuters in Copenhagen choose the bicycle to get to work or their place of education. 55% in the city center. That rises to 55%. And 80% cycle all winter. But they're not cyclists. Let me explain. If I need bread and I want to go up to the supermarket to buy bread and I walk out of my flat, when I hit the sidewalk, I suppose magically, statistically, I become a pedestrian. If I choose to take my bike, magically, statistically, I become a cyclist when I hit the cycle tracks or the streets. I'm just a man who needs bread, None of these people that we're seeing here identify themselves with being cyclists. These are just regular Copenhageners who just happen to use a bicycle to get around. They don't identify themselves, nor do I, as a cyclist, which means something completely different in many other countries. And that's why I tend to call them citizen cyclists. Now, Copenhagen and Denmark have a long, proud tradition of using the bicycle. But I'd always like to point out that, basically everybody does. Even Australia, believe it or not. The bicycle was a main feature on the urban landscape in cities and towns all around the world, at least up until the 1950s. Then came car culture. And the bicycle became relegated over the years to being a piece of sports equipment or a recreational vehicle, or something the kids did in the driveway, but nothing in between. And even in Copenhagen, we had major problems in the late 1950s, starting there. Our urban planning started to revolve around the automobile for the first time. And the direct result was, throughout the 60s, was that cycling dropped. It plummeted. The number of bicycles disappeared from the streets. The bottom left, this is a picture from the early 1970s. And you can see the other photos from the 50s. And on the left, I think that's the early 1940s. The bicycles were disappearing. It took the oil crisis in the early 1970s to start changing things. There was really a grassroots movement among regular citizens to get away from oil-based fuels and whatnot. And the bicycle was the main symbol for this movement in Denmark. And we've spent the better part of 3 decades now resuscitating our bicycle culture, rebuilding it, slowly and steadily. It's really quite funny. In almost more than 3 decades, nobody came knocking on our door. Nobody was inviting strange people like me to come to Melbourne to talk about it. We just slowly and steadily worked at it. The great thing is that all the mistakes have been made. We've paid for the mistakes. And that's why I say that other cities, I really believe that other cities can do the same thing in 5 to 10 years. If there is visionary political decision-making. Damn, there's always a catch, isn't there? There's always a catch. But I believe that it is possible. One of my readers on the blogs was researching images of Australian cities with bicycles. And he found a film at the National Archives in Canberra. And these are office workers. It's quitting time. All these ladies are getting on their bikes and they're heading off to wherever they go. And I was in doubt about whether or not I should show this photo because it's really just un-Australian. It's very subversive. I'm sorry you had to see this, actually, to be honest. But the main point is that, we've all been here before. This is nothing new. The bicycle wasn't invented yesterday. Thank God for that, because it would never fly if it was at this point in history. But I call it bicycle culture 2.0, all the things that are happening around the world. History is repeating itself. It worked before, it'll work again, and it is working again in cities all around the planet. It's not like we're forcing something as strange as synchronized swimming on unwitting populations around the world, forcing everybody to with nose plugs and with their hair up. And, this is just the bicycle, for God's sakes. Almost everybody here can ride one. Despite the fact that many countries are car-centric, people still learn how to ride bicycles. It's in our DNA. A couple of generations ago, everybody in all your families were riding bicycles back and forth to work. So hopefully that's an inspiring message. We're just doing it again.